hopefully you will have downloaded your ingredients and had them, you've got them lined up and chopped and prepped as the instructions in the ingredients list. If you haven't, don't worry about it too much. I'll take it at a nice pace so that you can catch up as we go through. But hopefully your kitchen is looking a bit like this. The kind of chefy term for this is mise en place, which means everything is chopped and ready to go. And honestly, it is the best way of cooking because if it's all out and ready, you can just enjoy the experience. You don't have to worry about running to cupboards and getting things ready. You can just focus on cooking this dish. And this dish really is a dish that you can put a lot of love into the cooking process, and you're going to get an awful lot of love back from it as well. You can freeze it. It's vegan if you use a meat replacement like Quorn, and it's also gluten-free. So it should appeal to many different tastes. To get started, what I'm going to do is just walk you through the ingredients so that you can make sure that you've got everything that you need and you can rush off to the fridge or the cupboard and get whatever it is that you might have left out. So what we've got for the korma, for the dish itself, is a finely chopped, really nicely finely chopped, large white onion. Onion really is the really good base for all curry dishes, and I'm going to share some secrets with the best way to cook it to get a really deep flavour and get the best out of your curries. So we've got 1 large white onion, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, and we've also got about 1 centimetre of fresh ginger that I've grated as well. You've got the seeds of 3 cardamom pods. Now you could use green cardamom, you could use black cardamom, and a really good way to release those seeds from the pod is just to take a large knife, crush down on it, and hopefully you'll have released those seeds out into a little dish like this. Don't put the pods in whole with the skins on. We've got some fantastic spices, and of course spices are all important in curries. So we've got some garam masala, we've got some ground nutmeg to give it that nice sweetness that you get in korma. We've got some chili powder, of course, and we've got some ground turmeric as well. Now I know a few of you were asking about making this dish for more people. Tracy, I know, was asking about this. If you're making the dish for 4, so the ingredients list that you've got is for 2. If you're making it for 4, double up on the fresh ingredients, but we'll just talk through the spices when we get to that point, because you might not want to double up on chili. Really, it's to taste, and I'll just give you some guidance on it as we go through. Everything okay?
Jill's forgotten cardamom.
Jill's forgotten cardamom. Don't worry about it, Jill. To be honest with you, I think you'll be just fine without it. It's just a really nice way to infuse the oil at the start. If you are using it, you will definitely notice it. But if you're not using it, it's not the end of the world at all. So we've got 6 or so really nice, big, fleshy cherry tomatoes. We've got 2 chicken breasts, or the equivalent meat replacement. So that could be Quorn. I know there's some really nice meat replacement products around on the market at the moment. The equivalent of 2 chicken breasts is perfect. And as I said, if you do it like that, this dish is vegan. Got a nice handful of fresh spinach. It's all about bringing the extra nutrients into your dish. Always about adding and not taking away. Seasoning is so important in all cooking, but particularly in curries, because that's where you really get depth of flavour and you can, really get the most out of your spices. So make sure you've got some salt and pepper. We've got 200 mils of coconut milk. Now I've made sure that I've kind of got the top bit of the coconut milk where it's really nice and creamy, and a bit of the milk underneath as well. So if you've got a good combination of that, brilliant. If you're making it for 4, put the whole tin in, the 400 mils. A little tip on coconut milks is it's a good idea to check the ingredients on the back of the tin, because you can often find that actually there's not a lot of coconut extract in some of the brands. Some of the brands that I've come across are only like 40 or 50%. Oldie, if you have an Oldie near you, is a pretty good one. It's got about 75%. Anything kind of 70 to 80% coconut extract is a good brand, so try and look out for that. And we've got some ground almonds. That is kind of the quintessential ingredient in korma, and it's going to give it that lovely texture and sweetness at the end. Okay, so hopefully you've got all those ingredients for your curry. And then we're going to have a nice kind of sexy, veggie, spicy side dish tonight. So I'm all about making vegetables interesting and tasty. Gone are the days when we boil the veg. And also because we want to kind of keep our insulin levels in check and keep our blood sugars nice and balanced, it's really nice for an evening meal to have a vegetable side rather than piling on the rice or something like that. So I've got half a sweetheart cabbage, really finely chopped. You can use any cabbage at all. In fact, to be honest, you can use any vegetables like this. Any green leafy veg, saute up beautifully. I've got a couple of florets of cauliflower that I've grated on the large setting. We've got some just finely sliced red onion ready to go. I've got some lovely fresh coriander. If you're not a coriander fan, parsley, but really any nice fresh herbs really just make side dishes, or rather side vegetable sides, when you saute them, really fresh and to bite.
Sharon's asking you put whole cardamom in, so can you maybe explain again?
So yes, so Sharon's just asked, do you put whole cardamom pods in? So the answer is no. So what you do is you take your pods, I haven't actually got any whole ones here, but they're tiny wee pods, aren't they? Just pop them onto a chopping board, place some gentle weight down on the top of them so they split the pod, and then just empty out your seeds. I don't know if you can see that particularly well, but I've just got some nice seeds. That's the way to get the real flavour out of them, because you're not really going to get much when they're encased inside that pod there. So just break them down a bit, Sharon. And then finally, for our vegetable side, we've got some really nice, just light flavourings. I've got cumin seeds on the ingredients. I couldn't get any, so I've got coriander seeds this evening and a little bit of garlic salt. Okay, so hopefully everybody has got all that really good stuff lined up, ready to go. The oil that we are going to cook with tonight is coconut oil. It's a really nice plant-based oil. We really shouldn't be afraid of fats. You know, they are just a macronutrient and a source of energy for us, but they get a lot of bad press with diets. Fats actually aren't fattening. If you think about it, your brain is 60% fat, and fat is essential to hormone health, to your cell health, all those kind of things. It's all about the type of fat that you choose. So you want to be looking for essential fatty acids and natural saturated fats in moderation. It's a kind of trans fats and sunflower oils and things like that that we, need to worry about. So just in moderation, a nice bit of coconut oil makes a curry taste beautiful. So great. In terms of what you need this evening, equipment-wise, chopping board, good old sharp knife. I've got 2 large non-stick frying pans. If you haven't got 2 large non-stick frying pans, 1 and a wok maybe, or 1 and a large saucepan. And I've got a nice plastic spoon and a wooden utensil, because they're really good for non-sticks, that you protect your pans in the process of cooking. Okay, let's get going. So we're going to start by making the curry, and curry is all about layering. This is the way to get the most flavour. So pop one of your large pans onto a medium heat. And what we're going to do is we're going to cook off our onions really, really slowly with a lot of care and attention, because that really is what makes for depth of flavour in a curry. You want them really caramelised. So pop your pan onto a medium heat, and we're going to put in about half a tablespoon or a couple of teaspoons of coconut oil, okay? Just add that to the pan. As we go through, just shout up if you've got any questions at all. So I'm just going to let that melt down a little. These are these little induction stoves are what I used at retreats, and they're so handy. You can take them anywhere with you, but they are quite fierce as well, so you've got to keep an eye on them. So just melting down that coconut oil nicely into the pan. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to add our finely chopped white onion to that pan. So add in your onion. I'm just going to get my heat up a little bit more. You just want it nicely sizzling. Get that up to a nice kind of sizzle in that lovely oil. Oh, do you know what I did? I actually forgot to put the cardamom pods in. Never mind, we'll do that now. Just get that up to a nice sizzle. And the first spice that we're going to add in is cardamom seeds. Now, I actually forgot to put them in. Ideally, just melt your oil down a little bit and put them in first, just so that they lightly infuse that oil. To be honest, it doesn't matter that we've kind of got to a stage now, but always the first thing, because they're just going to create a lovely base, a lovely fragrant base for the curry. So in with your cardamom seeds. So my onion is now just starting to sizzle nicely in the pan. I've got the coconut oil melted down and we've added the cardamom seeds. Jill, you haven't got them, it's no problem at all. As I've said, the secret to curry bases, and indeed any bases that use onions, like casseroles, things like that, is to really gently cook off your onions on a kind of medium to low, slow temperature. If you've got the patience, it's absolutely the best way to get a really flavourful end result. Because what you don't want is that kind of bitter, hard onion in your finished dish. You kind of almost don't want to notice it. You want it to melt into the background. Korma is really renowned for its use of very finely chopped onions. In fact, typically they're ground, but the number of times I've done this, they're just nice if they're just finely chopped. So what I tend to do at this stage is cook off the onions for about 5 minutes. I'm just looking at the time as I do that. A way to get the most out of it and to really set the base and to caramelize them quite quickly at this stage is to add a teaspoon of salt to your pan. So I've got a teaspoon of salt here. Grab yourself a teaspoon and some finely ground salt and just add that to your pan. What that's going to do is it's going to draw out the moisture from those onions so that they caramelize a little bit quicker, and also again it kind of sets the flavor, sets the tone for the dish. The experiences that I've had where I've ended up with a curry that doesn't taste that great, 9 times out of 10 it's been because I've missed the seasoning. So don't be afraid of using a little bit of salt. So I've got these onions nicely sizzling. I've added a teaspoon of salt to them and we've got the little cardamom seeds in. Did Sharon manage to break her cardamom pods down? Okay. That is going to be absolutely perfect. So, as I said, we're just going to make sure that they don't burn on the bottom. So watch your temperature on the pan. Make sure that it's a nice low to medium heat, but that they're sizzling nicely. And whilst that's happening, we're going to take our 6 cherry tomatoes and we're going to chop them nice and finely. So I've got 6 cherry tomatoes here. What I'm essentially going to do is just cut them 4 ways and then in half. So you're kind of quartering them and then you're cutting them down the middle. Adding a tomato, a lot of korma dishes and recipes don't have tomatoes. I find it adds a really nice tanginess to the dish and also helps with the colour of the dish as well. So I'm just quartering them and then I'm just cutting them down the middle so that they're nice and small. And just make sure you're keeping an eye on your onions so that they're not burning. I'm just going to move mine around a little. Beautiful, beautiful. Just cutting through these tomatoes. This is just, I mean, it smells amazing and also it's just a really great dish for this time of year. It's a really comforting thing, and it also kind of ticks that box of being really good for you and also indulgent as well. I feel like Nigella Lawson's saying that. So I've chopped up my tomatoes nice and finely, and I'm just going to move my onions around a little bit here. And they've been cooking now for about 4 minutes. So at the 5-minute point, we're going to add our tomatoes and our fresh garlic and our fresh ginger to the pan. So make sure you've got those at the ready. How many have we got here this evening?
It was 15, it's just dropped to 14.
Got 14 people cooking along tonight. That's absolutely brilliant. It's great. It's kind of taken the stress out of thinking about an extra meal this week as well, hasn't it? Because I know getting back into the swing of things in January is challenging. So I can see that my onions are beginning to look a little bit more translucent. They're browning a little bit. So hopefully you've got that same result going on in your pan. They've been cooking now for about 5 minutes. So we're going to add to the pan our chopped cherry tomatoes and our fresh garlic and ginger. Now when you add these, what you don't want to do is have the pan too hot. You don't want to burn the garlic and the ginger. So just make sure that it's on a nice, steady, kind of medium to low heat. And just stir those in. Mix that all together really, really well. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. That's all mixed in beautifully. Just make sure it's on a nice steady heat, because what we're going to do now is we're going to turn our attention to the other pan to get our vegetable side dish ready. So just keep an eye on that, just as it's nicely carrying on to soften down and bring all those lovely fresh spicy flavours together. Pop your other pan on and put it onto a medium heat. And again, we're going to put in about half a tablespoon of coconut oil to that pan. So I'm just popping the second pan onto medium heat, and I'm just adding the coconut oil to that pan. Yay, I love a curry. Just whilst that's melting, make sure you're moving those lovely tomatoes and the garlic and the ginger around. Hopefully you're getting some nice fresh aromas off that now. Okay, so my coconut oil is just melting down nicely in the pan that I'm going to use for my veggies. I'm going to do it right this time. I'm actually going to remember to put the seeds in first. So you'll get to see the process. So what we're going to do is, once your coconut oil is melted, we're going to take your cumin seeds. I've actually got coriander seeds here. And you're just going to add those to the melted oil, so that the oil takes on the flavour of those lovely seeds. And I think it's about half a teaspoon is going to go in there. And they should just gently pop, move them around a bit in the oil. And the oil, that will really nicely infuse and take on the flavour of those lovely seeds. And that's exactly, you know, if you come, because you are going to love this dish. So when you come back to making it again, just do that when you start the curry off with the cardamom seeds. I'm just moving my onion and tomato mix around and making sure that it doesn't burn. Okay, lovely. The seeds are just bubbling slightly now. Make sure they don't burn, turn them down a bit, and then we are going to add our red onion to the second pan. So you want some nice finely chopped red onion. The reason we use red onion here is just because it's, you know, it's a bit sweeter, but it's also beautiful. It looks really nice in the dish. So just move your red onion around gently, and we're just going to let that soften nicely. So again, make sure that it is not too hot. Just making sure it's not too hot, and I'm just going to leave that to soften off a little. We're not going to add any salt to this at this stage because we're going to use some garlic salt on it later. Okay. Hopefully you've got a nice hob that you can just turn your attention gently between the two. And this is when you really appreciate having all of your ingredients ready to go, because you just don't have to worry about chopping stuff whilst you're cooking. So I'm just giving my onion, tomato, ginger and garlic a lovely old stir. Hopefully your onions are starting to look nice and soft now, yeah? How's it all looking? Let's give it another minute or so. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to brown off our chicken or our corn or whatever meat replacement it is that you're using. So you want to take your chopped chicken. And what we're going to do is we are just going to gently push the tomatoes, onions, that mixture. We're just going to gently push it to the side of the non-stick pan. And we're going to turn the heat up just slightly from a medium to kind of a medium high. Because what we're going to do is we want to brown off the meat or the meat replacement. So just allow your pan to get nice and hot. Keeping one eye out for your red onion here, cooking away nicely in the background. I'm just going to turn mine down a bit, make sure it doesn't overcook. Once your pan is nice and hot, then we're going to add the chicken or the corn to the dish, and it should sizzle away and start to brown nicely. So you've got it on a nice kind of medium to high heat, and just leave it kind of on each side and just move it around a little bit to brown it off. Mine's already starting to go nicely brown. Just makes it, you know, seals it off, makes it look lovely in the dish. Now I quite like to warm my plates for evening meals. So if you like to do the same thing, I recommend that you pop your oven on to really low. I'm going to pop my oven on to about 100, and I'm just going to pop my plates in a little while. So I'm just going to pop the oven on, let it start to warm up, and then I'm going to pop my plates in later, and I'll remind you to do the same just to warm them up. There's nothing worse than a really lovely hot cooked dinner on a cold plate when it goes really cold really quickly. So this is lovely. Just turn your meat. It's actually quite nice to have some skewers to do this. Turning over the meat or the corn. Don't know if you can see much of my pan, but hopefully you can see that it is starting to brown nicely. So just turn it over. We don't want to keep the pan on a high heat for too long. We just want it to brown off nice and quickly. So I've just turned it. And whilst that's just browning on the other side, what we're going to do is we are going to add our cabbage, our lovely finely shredded cabbage, and our cauliflower to the other pan where our lovely red onion is. So just going to chuck that in. Sauteing veg like this is just lovely. It's just a really nice way to put a different spin on vegetables. You can use any kinds of lovely fresh herbs with it. You could use parsley with it, coriander, mint in the summer is absolutely divine. So add your finely chopped cabbage and your shredded cauliflower to that pan. Again, shredded cauliflower is just, if you've got kids, it's a great way to get kids interested in veggies, because when you're sauteing them like this, you can season them nicely, they soften up beautifully, and yeah, you can just add lots of different flavouring. You can add dry spices as well. So I'm just going to turn the heat up on that veg a bit more and just make sure it's all nicely stirred together so that can saute off nicely in the background. And then I'm just turning my attention back to my pan where my chicken is. That has browned nicely now. Hopefully yours has too. So just turn that temperature back down. So just to recap, because that was quite a frantic section of cooking, we have added our cabbage and our cauliflower to the pan with the red onions. We've stirred it all around nicely. We're just letting that saute off for a minute. And we've come back to our pan where we're browning the chicken or the corn, and we've turned the temperature back down. Give it a good stir now. Bring back the tomatoes and the onions to cover the chicken. Give it a good stir, and we're now going to turn our attention to adding the dry spices to this pan. So as I said, if you're cooking this for more than two, really you want to, once you get used to cooking this a few times, you'll kind of get to a point where you know how you like to mix your spices. Garam masala is key. So for the standard dish, we're going to add a good heaped teaspoon of garam masala. If you're doing this for four, I would maybe add a heap and a bit. Is everybody okay? Just slow a little bit. So I'm adding a nice heaped teaspoon of garam masala. Everyone's busy. Just remember to turn your veggies every now and again so that they're sauteing evenly in that pan. So I've added a heaped teaspoon of garam masala. Now I like a bit of heat, but I don't like it too hot. So I'm just going to add half a teaspoon of chili powder. Add chili to your taste, you know, and if you don't have chili powder, you can add Cajun spices, or, you know, I can't remember what that's called now, pepper, Cajun pepper. Yes, that cayenne pepper, sorry. Cayenne pepper is another one that you can use in this. So I'm just adding half a teaspoon of chili powder. I'm going to add a teaspoon of turmeric. This gives it that beautiful, lovely orangey yellow colour. Teaspoon. If you're cooking for four, don't add much more than a teaspoon of turmeric because you don't really want it to flavour it. Turmeric's got quite an interesting taste, and you don't want that to overpower the dish. So just keep it there for colour. A teaspoon should be plenty. And a pinch of nutmeg. If you're doing it for four, I'd go in for half a teaspoon. Just enough, not too much. A really good tip when you're adding dry spices to your curry, at the same time, that is when to add your seasoning. So I know we've already added some salt to the onions, but really you need to add a little bit of salt and pepper as well when you add your dry spices, because it draws out a flavour and really gives it that nice depth. So I'm going to add a little bit of cracked black pepper. If you don't have cracked black pepper, then just, you know, powdered pepper is fine. And a little bit of salt as well. And then stir all that together so that those dry spices and that seasoning just coat the chicken or the corn nicely. Mix that all together well. I love this dish. I've obviously, I love developing recipes. I've developed now over 100 recipes for the non-diet method. And every time I develop a recipe, I test it at least 4 times. So Alan, my husband, absolutely loves this. But it's like, Are we going to get the korma again tonight, are we? It's like probably the third time in 2 weeks that we've had it, isn't it? It's a good job you love it. So we've coated, as you can see, there's some really nice colours coming through now. We've coated the meat or the corn with the spices. So you should have a really nice colourful dish that the spices are well distributed through, okay? And make sure you're getting all of that lovely spice off your spoon and into the pan. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add our coconut milk and our ground almonds. Just before we do that, just make sure you're moving your lovely sautéed cabbage and cauliflower around and making sure that it's not burning on the bottom, the all important point. Okay, that's looking good. So back to the curry dish. I've got 200 ml of coconut milk. I'm just going to get a little fresh thing to take it out of its, scrape it out of the jug. So as I said, I've tried to combine a bit of the cream from the top along with the liquid from underneath. I often just try and shake up the tin, but this one was really, really stuck, which is good because it means it's got a lot of creaminess in it, which is exactly what you want. But yes, 200 mils. If you're doing it for 4, chuck the whole tin in. Pop that in and then just give it a really nice stir. And you can now see how it's beginning to look like a chicken korma. Sorry? Oh, Christmas. Thank goodness it's not. So yeah, that's looking lovely. Hopefully yours is looking nice and appealing. I'm just gonna turn my heat up a little. You want it on a nice medium heat. You want it to be gently simmering. I'm just making sure that all of those ingredients are really, really well mixed together. If you have a spatula, then use it to make sure you get all of that lovely coconut milk off your jug and into your pan. Stirring that all in really, really well. Once the coconut milk is stirred in and combined nicely and it's looking beautiful and bright, then just add in your ground almonds. So we've got 25 grams of ground almonds. If you are using 400 ml of coconut milk, then a little more. Just double up on that. And stir in those ground almonds really, really, really well. Okay, how is everyone getting on? Excellent. Right, so we're just going to leave that now to simmer. So just keep an eye on it. Should be just bubbling slightly, looking good. And we're going to just turn our attention back to our veg, and we're going to add some seasoning and some garlic salt. So all you want to add really is just about half a teaspoon of garlic salt. I had a complete disaster the other night because I've got 2 garlic salts. One does this and this one just dumps in, and I thought it was the different product that I had in my hand and ended up with like a tablespoon of garlic salt in my veg, so I had to start again. So do be careful because it is quite pungent. So I'm just going to add in a nice half a teaspoon of garlic salt to the veg and just shake that all over, distribute it nicely. Then add some nice cracked black pepper. Don't need to add any salt. If you taste it at the end and you think it needs a little bit of extra salt, then you can always add it at the end. But because we've got the garlic salt in there, it should be fine. And just give that a nice stir through. Hopefully Your cabbage is softening up nicely. That now smells delicious because I've got that little kick of garlic in there. And when we finish it off at the end with the coriander, it's going to be absolutely lovely, lovely and lovely and fresh. Okay, so stirring through the garlic salt and a little bit of pepper. So I'll just recap again. Okay, so we have now added the coconut milk and the ground almonds to our curry pan. We've stirred it all together and it should be looking beautiful. How's yours looking? Is it looking good? Nice and bright and yum?
Yeah, a few thumbs up.
Good, good, good. And we have gone back, turned our attention back to our lovely sauteed veg, and we've added half a teaspoon of garlic salt, and we've added a bit of pepper as well. And we've stirred it all through, okay? And we're just going to let those cook whilst we just chop up our coriander, which is going to finish off those vegetables perfectly. And I'm just going to lightly chop our spinach as well.
Barbara says beautiful.
Hello, Barbara. Nice to have you here. So I've just started off with my spinach, beautiful handful of spinach. My philosophy is always to add extra nutrients wherever you can, you know. There's always an opportunity, and spinach is a great additional veg for things like curries, soups, pasta dishes. Always melts in really nice to pasta dishes. So we're just going to, you can rip it up, or you can just, you know, it doesn't have to be too fine. You just chunk it up, cut it up a little bit so you're not putting in the whole leaf. I've got some really nice fresh baby spinach here. I'm just going to make sure that my veg isn't burning. Oh, good. So yes, don't take away, add extra nutrients where you can. Another really good way to do that is if you're making a mince-based dish, then add half lentils to the mince. So you're getting more dietary fibre, more micronutrients into it. You know, those gorgeous cells of yours really deserve it. So that's the spinach. And what I'm going to do with the spinach is I'm literally just going to dump it on top of the curry. Okay, just dump it on the top and it will wilt down in the steam from the curry. So chopped it up, popped it on the top there, and we're just going to allow that to gently wilt as it cooks off. And I've got my lovely, lovely coriander. So I absolutely love coriander. I think it's a really great addition to most curries, Thai dishes. I know it's kind of a bit like Marmite, isn't it? Some people love it, some people don't. So like,
Plates in the oven yet?
Sorry?
Plates in the oven?
Plates in the oven. Excellent. Good job you're here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Pop your plates in the oven. Because we are kind of, you know, what, a few minutes away. So yes, put your plates in the oven, ladies. Coriander, yes, not for everyone. So fresh parsley is also really good. As I said, in the summer, bit of fresh parsley, bit of mint in your cabbage sauteed, absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to chop up my coriander.
Jill H says that for some people, coriander tastes like salt.
For some people, coriander tastes like salt. Is that right, Jill? Wow, I didn't know that. I was aware that some people, you know, really don't like it. And are you in that group then, Jill? Does it taste like salt for you?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a genetic thing.
Interesting.
And Lisa says it does not taste good. And Jill Scalina says it's minging.
There you go then. As I said, split audience on coriander.
I think that's spinach.
I'm just turning in my spinach now. My coriander is chopped. If you didn't like coriander, you can try something else. And I'm just turning the spinach into that beautiful curry. And look at that, right? You cannot beat, the colours are just beautiful, aren't they? That bright orange, that lovely green from the spinach. Just folding it through so that it softens down. Alan's just said he doesn't like spinach, but the truth is, you don't even taste it when it's in something like this. And it's just there, adding, you know, just extra micronutrients and goodness. I always like to hide a veg in something, me. So I've turned that spinach into the curry, and I'm now going to chuck my lovely fresh coriander that I love into my veggies, into the cabbage, etc., and give that a little spin. That is really kind of the finisher for that. So once you've folded through your fresh coriander, you can really turn that veggie pan right down or off. You don't want to, you know, cremate those vegetables. They're all lovely and ready to go. I like a veg, you know, with a bit of bite to it. I always do taste it, see how it is. If it just tastes a little bit, you know, uninteresting, then I add a bit more seasoning. So I'm just going to try a little bit of my veg. For me, that's perfect. It's nicely caramelized. Yum. But yeah, give it a taste. See what you think. If it, you know, add a bit more salt if you want to. And this is the all important step now with your curry, is to taste it and make sure that it's where you want it. If it's too hot, you know, you could add a little bit more coconut milk, or you could add a touch of lime. You might find that you want to add a little bit more seasoning, you know, those kind of things. So I'm going to give the curry a little taste before we go. Just the sauce, and see how that is. Who's doing taste tests? Have you done taste tests? Hopefully that is.
Yeah, got a few thumbs up there.
Oh, good, good, good.
Yeah, Lisa says so good.
Brilliant, great. So that is it. I'm going to get my plates out. I'm going to turn off the heat, get my plates out and serve it up. So I'm just going to go and grab my plates. It would be great. I think Alan hopefully has put into the chat box my my handle on Instagram or Facebook. If you are on either of those channels, do take a picture of what you've done tonight. I would love to see it, and tag me so that I can have a look at it and say hi. But that is it. You are ready to go. Hopefully you've got a beautiful curry dish, all homemade, you know, without me jabbering on. You've made that in half an hour. It freezes well, as I said, so portion it up and freeze it. And I really, really hope that you've enjoyed the session and that you enjoy your meal this evening. If you've got any questions for me at all, you can email me or just get in contact with me on Instagram. All right, guys. Lovely. Enjoy your meals. See you later. Bye.